The last topic here that we need to talk about is a little bit about how the cells themselves reproduce. So we know that what we've been talking about, we have an egg cell and a sperm cell which combine to form a zygote. That's just one single cell. And somehow that one single cell grows into an entire living human. And so the number of cells has to increase dramatically. It has to go from a single cell to a full-grown person has trillions of cells that make up their whole body. So when we talk about reproduction, we're also talking about how individual cells reproduce. Go from a single cell to trillions of cells. Those cells have to reproduce many, many times. And we call this cell division. So when we talk about cells reproducing, we call it cell division, and there's two big categories of cell division. They are called mitosis and meiosis. So we'll get there in a second. So later on, probably in 10th grade, you guys will learn maybe more about the details of how each of these types of cell division works at different phases and different things happen to the chromosomes. But for now, all we need to know is sort of the very, very basics about what these types of cell divisions are, maybe how they're different. So the first one is called meiosis. M-E-I-O-S-I-S. Now you can see I made the eyes a little bit different to help you, maybe, remember that meiosis, what are these eyes shaped like? Sperm cells. This is because meiosis produces sperm cells and egg cells. Sex cells, we call them. Gametes, we call them. And it's meiosis that produces these sex cells. And sex cells have a very important difference from normal body cells. Does anybody know what the main difference is? We've sort of talked about it a little bit. It has to do with chromosomes. Anybody know? Maggie?
DNA?
Chromosomes are made of DNA, yes. In most of our body cells, we have a certain number of chromosomes. Do you remember what that number is? In a normal human, how many chromosomes are in each of their body cells? Ellen? You're close. Maya? 46 chromosomes are in a normal human body cell. However, sex cells, sperm and egg cells are different. How many chromosomes are in a sperm cell or an egg cell? Alan?
23.
Yes. They have 23 chromosomes. Half the number that a normal body cell has. So when a cell is reproducing by meiosis, a normal cell with 46 chromosomes is being divided into cells that only have 23. It reduces the number of chromosomes in half. But the only time organisms need those types of cells are for reproduction. So meiosis only happens to produce sperm and egg cells. That's the only time cells are produced by meiosis. Most of the other times, which is the vast majority of the time, cells that are reproducing reproduce by another method called mitosis. And mitosis basically just makes copies of the cell. Makes identical copies. So our body cells reproduce through this process of mitosis. If you get a cut on your hand, the new cells that are going to fill in that cut for it to heal, they're made through mitosis. Okay? As your bones are growing, as you get taller, those new cells in your bones, they're made through mitosis. And it produces new cells for growth and for repair of tissue, to replace tissue. So you can remember that in humans, mitosis happens in the toes, mitosis, as well as all of the other parts of the body, except for producing sperm and egg cells. So that's the key thing to know, is that meiosis produces sperm and egg cells, mitosis produces every other cell. So if we imagine reproduction, we start with cells from the male and the female. A normal cell in a male or female is 46 chromosomes. But to produce these sperm and egg cells, meiosis happens. It cuts the number of chromosomes in half to form 23. Every sperm cell that's produced by a male has 23 chromosomes in it, half of the typical number. Every egg cell produced by a female has 23 chromosomes in it, half the normal number. And during reproduction, if this sperm cell fertilizes this egg cell, right, those are called gametes, and if those gametes meet, 23 chromosomes from the sperm cell and 23 chromosomes from the egg cell for 46 again, the proper number. So when fertilization happens, a sperm cell with 23 chromosomes combines with an egg cell with 23 chromosomes, and the zygote has 46, the proper number. And then that single cell zygote divides into two cells. What type of cell division is that? That goes from the zygote to these first stages of the embryo. Meiosis or mitosis? This one. Right? Mitosis, because it kept the number of chromosomes the same. And those divide again to form 4 cells. What type of cell division? Mitosis. And mitosis will happen millions and millions of times to produce a whole living organism.
So what's the difference?
The difference is that meiosis reduces the number of chromosomes in half.
Well, mitosis just
Keeps it
splits
the same.
them.
And keeps the same number of chromosomes.
So meiosis just meiosis reduces the chromosomes in half, while mitosis just splits the number.
No, mitosis keeps it the same.
What I'm trying to say is, so basically meiosis splits the chromosomes in half, while mitosis keeps the chromosomes the same exact amount while splitting them into multiple things.
Yes. Yep. And so meiosis only happens to produce sperm and egg cells. Every other time an organism needs new cells, they're made through mitosis. Right?
Do you still have the 23 chromosomes?
Yes. So like the chromosomes get they make a copy of the chromosomes. It's like if you had a book and you made a copy of each page and then split it up. You still have your original book, but you're giving the copies to something else. So yeah, you still have the same chromosomes because they're copied before they're split up. So if we imagine reproduction, fertilization, a sperm and egg cell meet to form a zygote. In humans, how many chromosomes does a sperm cell have? Raise your hand, please. A sperm cell in humans has 23 chromosomes. Raise your hand, please. An egg cell in humans. Like,
46.
not an egg cell. We're going to get there. A sperm cell has 23. An egg cell, James. And the zygote, Blake?
46.
Correct. So 23 from the sperm cell, 23 from the egg cell for 46. And again, everybody gets half their chromosomes from their mother and half from their father. 23 from each parent.
So the sperm is the male while the egg is the female?
Yes. So, as far as some terms, the sperm cell or the egg cell, a general name for it, they're called gametes. And gametes are produced by what type of cell division? Which one produces gametes? Abby? Meiosis. And therefore, what is their number of chromosomes compared to typical body cell? Maggie?
Half.
Yeah, they have half as many chromosomes as a normal cell. Right?
Do we have to remember the term for sex cell?
Yeah, you probably should know. Yeah, Candy. All right, just a picture I wanted to show you. So we talked about birth and the development of the fetus and so forth yesterday. So this is an ultrasound, a sonogram image. Another one. I'll show you. I'll pass this one around. So these sonograms are, they use sound waves. This is a sonogram of my, hang on just one second, I just want to see. This is my youngest daughter. So a sonogram, they use sound waves. They have a little thing that they hold on the mother's abdomen. They put some gel on there to help conduct these waves. And then this little tool sends sound waves into the mother's abdomen, into the uterus. They bounce back, and this machine sort of makes a picture. It's kind of like an X-ray, but it doesn't use any radiation. It only uses sound waves to make the image. And so what happens is, on this sonogram, the dark areas are areas of bone. This is the baby's head. This is the baby's spine. On the one I'm passing around my daughter, the bone is white. And so you can see her head is to the right. Okay? You could see sort of the shape of her head and her face, and you could see the spine on the bottom. Nowadays, we have even more advanced sonograms. This is a 3D sonogram. So this is normal, and there's lots of stuff in there. But in a 3D sonogram, you can get an actual sort of image of what the fetus inside looks like. And you could see it moving over time. So they have much more advanced types of sonogram imaging today than they did when my daughter had that 9 years ago. Another one you can see, a baby with his tongue sticking out. Again, you can see sort of the full view.
Seriously, it's like mixing a dead fish.
All right. Our last topic here, something people are always interested in, twins. Trying to think. So, do you guys have twins in your grade?
No.
What?
Tori?
My little brother and sister.
Are twins? Okay. There was 1 year, 2 years, no, because they're in 10th grade now. I had, I think, 3 or 4 sets of twins in my classes that year. Brendan and Stuart Phillips and a couple others. But anyway, so you probably know there's different types of twins. There's identical twins. There's fraternal twins. Do you guys know any identical twins, like in our area? Blake, you know identical twins?
Were they exactly alike?
Oh, yeah, but I'm just wondering, do you know anybody two identical twins? You do, James?
My friend has 2 sisters, and they're very identical.
Okay. But identical twins is a very specific type of twin. Because even sometimes people you think are identical twins are really not. Like, Brendan and Stuart, they're not identical twins. Even though they look very similar, they're not technically identical twins. You guys know identical twins? Who? Okay. All right. So identical twins have the exact same DNA. They are basically clones of each other. Okay? Whereas fraternal twins, which is the other type of twins, do not have identical DNA. They're just like brother and sister that happen to be born at the same time. Daniel?
Well, I think my little girl knows some. Actually, and some friends that are
Identical?
well, not twins.
Triplets?
Yeah, triplets.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he knows some triplets.
Yeah. So, does anyone know how identical twins are formed? What happens during reproduction that forms identical twins? Eddie? No. 2 sperm can't penetrate 1 egg. It wouldn't form an actual embryo. Michael?
The egg split.
After what?
After it's fertilized.
Yes. So, if you have an egg cell that gets fertilized by a sperm cell, and then, as we know, we just talked about, usually that zygote splits into 2 and then 4. But every once in a while, after it splits into 2, the 2 cells don't stay together. They actually separate from each other. And then they each start growing separately. But they came from the same sperm cell and the same egg cell. Therefore, they have the exact same chromosomes. They have the same DNA. They're identical twins. They will always be the same gender. They will look identical to each other as they go through their lifetime because they're basically clones of each other. They have the exact same DNA. So that's identical twins. An egg is fertilized and then it splits. They have to be the same gender, the same sex, because they came from the same sperm and egg cell. Fraternal twins are more common. Fraternal twins can be boy and girl. Could be boy and boy or girl and girl. How do they form? So they form in a different way. Abby?
2 eggs are released.
Yeah. When we talked about ovulation, we said normally each month a woman releases 1 egg. But sometimes she releases 2 eggs. If both of those eggs happen to get fertilized by 2 sperm cells, well, then they can both turn into embryos and a fetus and grow inside of the uterus. But they came from 2 different eggs. They came from 2 different sperm cells. So they're not identical at all. They're just like brothers and sisters. They have the same amount of DNA in common as any other brother and sister would be. They just happen to be born at the same time. So fraternal twins are not identical. There's 2 different eggs that get fertilized by 2 different sperm cells. There can be triplets as well if the woman released 3 eggs that were fertilized.
So that's how triplets happen?
Yep, they could all be fertilized. Some women have natural triplets. That happens sometimes. Once you start going beyond triplets to quadruplets or quintuplets or sextuplets, oftentimes those multiple births, when there's more than 3, often it's because a woman was probably having some sort of fertility treatment. Sometimes if a couple is not able to get pregnant, they may see a doctor to help them. And they may take certain medications or hormones that cause the woman to produce more eggs than normal. And if a woman is releasing more eggs than normal and they happen to get fertilized, you can end up with 4 or 5 or 6 embryos at once. And you might end up with a big multiple birth. Michael?
There used to be these triplets in my elementary school, and 2 of them looked alike, but 1 didn't. Was that because like 1 egg split to 2 and
That can happen. You can have 2 identical twins and 1 fraternal twin because you had 2 eggs got fertilized by 2 different sperm cells. Then one of those split to form the identical twins, and the other egg and sperm is the fraternal twin. So it can happen. Daniel?
Seriously, can a female handle that much multiple births?
It's more difficult. It's a good question.
Like if you were having like triplets or quadruplets or
Yeah, if a
triplets
woman,
and so on.
good question. If a woman's pregnant with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 fetuses at once, it's much more difficult both for the mother and for those fetuses to do well and survive. So oftentimes a mother that has a multiple pregnancy like that, they'll keep very close eye on them. If the doctor will, they'll go for more regular checkups. They most likely will give birth by C-section, so the doctors can get them out more quickly to help make sure they're healthy. So yeah, it is harder to give birth.
More painful.
I don't know if it's any more painful. It's bigger, and the woman gets much larger with multiple births because she's got. Usually, if a woman has twins or triplets or something, each one is usually smaller than if she were just having a single baby.
How many, what's the most that mothers have for birth?
8, I believe, is the most.
My grandpa had like 10 or 11 births, sisters.
Oh, but at one time I was talking about.
Oh,
Some people have 10, 20 children over their lifetime. Some women can.
so you can have octo.
Yeah, that's I think the most at one time a woman's given birth at one
I
time.
wonder how
What are the odds of?
when they're perfect. That's not like if they're
Yeah, different animals have like.
They try to get puzzles.
Yeah. All right, Blake, a question, then we're going to move on.
What are the odds of octo-identical
Oh,
twins?
that only happens when the mother is having some kind of fertility treatment to help her get pregnant. It doesn't ever happen naturally.
But
all right.
it can happen.
Yes. So there's another situation when identical twins are formed. So an egg gets fertilized by a sperm cell. And then it starts to split and it's going to form identical twins. But those two twins that we're separating don't fully separate. They stay touching a tiny amount. And that can form what's called conjoined twins. Or you may have heard the term Siamese twins. And these are twins that are physically connected to each other. They share certain organs. Okay? And it depends on how they're touching as to what organs they share. So, Mary, you know those fraternal twins? They're not conjoined. This is with fraternal, sorry. Yeah, Mary Kate and Ashley. What is their name? What's their last name? Olsen? So conjoined twins are always identical twins, but the zygote doesn't split completely. Okay? Brittany and Abby, I believe, right, is their name. This is a set of conjoined twins, girls, obviously. They're on TV, right? And they're a set of conjoined twins, so they're connected. So Brittany and Abby share many of their internal organs in their torso. They only have they have one arm. Well, they had another arm that was removed because it was sort of a non-functional. So they have two heads, two brains. They have two different minds. They each have their own likes and dislikes and personality and so forth. They share many of their internal organs, though. Another very famous set of conjoined twins are Chang and Eng Bunker. Chang and Eng Bunker gave the name to Siamese twins. So Siam is no longer a country. Okay, it's called Thailand now. But they were from Siam. They were a set of conjoined twins. They shared some of their liver. Okay, but most of their organs were separate. Okay, but they were conjoined. They were born in the 1800s, and somebody saw them in their native country and signed a contract with them to go on tour. And they went on tour with like a carnival sort of thing, where people would pay money to see them because it was sort of unique and people didn't know a whole lot about this. And they came to America, traveled around America. They eventually got out of that and settled on a farm. I think it's in North Carolina. They got married. They got married to sisters, normal sisters, not twins or anything, but they got married to sisters. They each had their own wife. For a while, they all lived together in one house. But then their wives started arguing, and they had to have separate houses. And they would go and they would spend a few nights at Chang's house and then a few nights at Eng's house with his family. They had 21 children between the two of them with each of their wives. And they have a huge number of descendants today. They have over 1,500 descendants all around the country from Chang and Eng. Eventually, Eng, he died first. So he felt they had an accident, and he then eventually developed bronchitis. And one morning when they woke up, I think Aang had died overnight, and Chang was still alive. And so they called for the surgeon to come over because then the infections would set into Chang's body. So they called the surgeon over, but within 3 hours afterwards, Chang had died. So they weren't able to separate them in time. Now, if they were born today, they could easily be separated. Nowadays, with modern surgery, if conjoined twins are born and the organs they share aren't that major, then they can easily be separated. Chang and Aang had completely separate circulatory systems. Okay? They shared part of their liver. They had separate brains, obviously. Mostly separate digestive organs as well. So in that case, doctors can do surgery and carefully separate the parts and make incisions and suture everything up so that sometimes they can separate conjoined twins. However, if they share major organs, like Abby and Brittany share too many of their major organs to allow them to be separated. Okay? So they wouldn't both be able to survive. So they just let them sort of be the way that they are and keep careful eye on them. Right?
So, like,
is it kind of like together? Are they basically like one person together? Because
Not really, because they always have different brains and different minds and personalities.
That's my question. Like, so how what actually separates them from being two different humans? Is kind of what I'm asking.
You mean their organs?
No,
I think legally they're two separate people.
yeah, but say like a two-headed dragon. Is that two people or just one thing?
Well, it's a dragon, so it's not a person. But a two-headed, yeah, I think it's the brain. That's, I believe, what's important. Brian?
wait, if there's a conjoined twin, how do you, like, one person control one arm and one leg?
It depends on their situation and how their nervous system is configured. So I forget what it is. Abby and Brittany, I think they control the opposite limb. So the one that's head is on the left controls the right side of the body and vice versa. When they drive, they have to be very coordinated. They can drive. They have to be very coordinated in terms of how they operate the vehicle and so forth. And obviously have to work together to take care of themselves. No, because it's always identical twins. So they're, because it's always an identical twin that's separating but doesn't quite. So it's always the same gender. Daniel?
So,
You come back here?
yeah.
What is that, like, how, like, something, almost have two heads, is that?
Could be. I have a picture in here of a conjoined kitten that has two heads.
Let's start with that. What if two egg cells need to fertilize? Can they fuse together?
No. Once they're separate, they stay separate. It's a good question. Alan?
How would it work for them to
Ooh, like conjoined twins? It depends on how they're configured. So, like
them?
these guys, they each have separate digestive systems. They just each eat separately.
What about the other?
Abby, they each eat separately as well. I don't know how they're digested, because probably they have different esophaguses, because they both have different necks. And then somewhere inside of them, those digestive organs kind of merge. And so any foods they both eat ends up in one set of intestines and stuff.
Could it ever get clogged up?
I don't know, probably not any more than a normal healthy individual. All right, Maya?
In Abby and Brittany's case, like in one of those, if one died, would the other one too?
Probably. If they're that close and share that many major organs, they wouldn't be able to be separated. Daniel?
Does that sort of birth happen today too?
Yeah, it happens once in a while today. It's pretty rare, but it does happen sometimes. All right, just real quickly, here's some more pictures of some conjoined twins. They're always joined at the same body part, chest to chest, head to head, something like that. This is a non-fully formed identical conjoined twin, yes, that didn't develop later on. Here you have conjoined twins that were actually separated. So they didn't share major parts of their brain, so they're able to be separated. And animals can be conjoined as well.
Turtle